Hello and welcome to Simplifying Surds with Cubits Education. In this mini lecture you will know what a surd is by definition and simplify surds using the multiply rule, the divide rule and the square root and squared rule. You will simplify surds into double brackets. So first of all, what is a surd? A surd is any number that contains a square root sign. What is a square root sign? Well, here's an example. So this is the square root of 12. So this is the square root sign. Here's another type of surd. We have the root of 3 times by the root of 5. Here we have 5 plus the root of 78. And here we have 3 times the root of 2. Leaving the square root sign is useful for two reasons. We don't need calculators when dealing with them, and they are much more accurate as you don't have to round off the decimal. The square root of 2 is equivalent to a decimal number that goes on forever. It's called an irrational number. It looks like this. You can never write down its decimal accurately. At some point it would have to be rounded off. So the square root of 2 is 1.414213,562 rounded off to 9 decimal places. So here are the rules of surds. The square root of 4 times by the square root of 9 can be written like this. So these can be written together without the times in the middle. So 4 times 9 can be in the square root, and 4 times 9 is 36. So the square root of 36 is 6. Multiplying surds means that you'll have a times b, which means you can multiply them together and write them under the same square root. If we have surds that were being divided like this, the square root of 100 divided by the square root of 25, we can write it as the square root of 100 over 25. 100 divided by 25 is 4, so it's the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is 2. So when dividing surds, we can say that a square root over another square root is the same as those two numbers divided by each other, under the same square root sign. When we have square roots like this, it's saying that the square root of 49 squared. Well, the square root of 49 is 7, and then 7 squared is 49. So actually, if you square something that has just been square rooted, you will have just what you started with. Pause the video and have a go at these questions. Okay, if you've had a go, let's go through the answers. So the first one, square root 3 times square root 2, is actually the square root of 6. The second one, square root of 2 times the square root of 18, well, 2 times 18 is 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 14 squared will just leave you with 14, because that's where you have just what you started with. And 110 over 10 is 11, so the answer would be the square root of 11. Well done if you got all of those correct. When numbers are in surd form, we need to make the number in the square root as small as possible. For example, here's the square root of 48. The way to do this is we have to split 48 into two numbers, one of which is going to be a square number. So here we can say that 16 times 3 makes 48, so we can put that in the brackets. Then we can split it open like this and square root whichever can be square rooted. The square root of 16 is 4, so we can say that this is 4 times the square root of 3, or just 4 root 3. When splitting the number into its factors, one of them has to be the largest square number that you can find. Pause the video and have a go at these questions. Okay, if you've had a go, here's the answers. So, the square root of 32 is 16 times 2. The square root of 16 is 4, and then we're just left with 4 root 2. Here we have 18. The square root of 18 can be opened up into 9 times 2. The square root of 9 is 3, and then you have root 2 on the end. Here we have 72. 72 is 36 times 2. The square root of 36 is 6, so then we have root 2 on the end. The square root of 50 can be split up into 25 times 2. The square root of 25 is 5, and then you leave your root 2 on the end. And then here we have 162. The square root of 81 is 9, so it must be 81 times 2. Square root of 81 is 9, and then the root 2 goes on the end. So well done if you got all of those right. Now we're looking at surds in double brackets. Here we have the square root of 3 minus 2 multiplied by the square root of 3 plus 4. And we have to expand these brackets in exactly the same way as we usually do. So we're going to do the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. That just leaves us with 3. We then do the square root of 3 times 4. And that gives us 4 root 3. And we just add that to our working out. We then do minus 2 times the square root of 3, which is minus 2 root 3. And then we do minus 2 times 4, which is minus 8. We now have 3 plus 4 root 3 minus 2 root 3 minus 8. And if we have two terms with the same square root sign in, so here's square root of 3, here's square root of 3, we can use those as if they're like values for x. So we just do 4 take away 2. Okay? We also have this 3 and this minus 8. Well, 3 minus 8 makes minus 5, and 4 take away 2 is 2. So we're just left with minus 5 plus 2 root 3. Pause the video and have a go at this one, and then we'll go through the answer. Okay, if you've paused the video and had a go, let's do the question. So the first thing we need to do is 5 times 5, which is 25, and pop that down there. Then we do 5 times root 2, which is 5 root 2, and we pop that down there. Then we do minus root 2 times 5, which is going to be minus root 2, which means it's minus 5 root 2. Then we do minus root 2 times positive root 2. If we're doing a minus times a positive, our answer will be minus. However, we're doing the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, which just leaves us with 2. So our final answer will be minus 2, and we'll put that on the end. As you can see, we have 5 root 2 and another 5 root 2 in our answer. But it's actually saying 5 root 2 take away 5 root 2. So those cancel each other out, and we're left with 25 take away 2, which is 23. So sometimes you get a nice neat one like that. So pause the video and have a go at expanding these brackets. Okay, so if you've had a go, here are the answers. So for the first one, we had square root of 2 plus 2 and the square root of 2 plus 5. So when we expanded it, it would give us 2 plus 5 root 2 plus 2 root 2 plus 10, and in the end giving us 7 root 2 plus 12. The second one, we would have had 5 plus 6 root 5 minus 3 root 5 minus 18, giving us minus 13 plus 3 root 5. And then we have 21 minus 7 root 6 plus 3 root 6 minus 6, which gives us 15 minus 4 root 6. And then this last one, if you were clever, you might have noticed, but it's a little bit odd because it actually gives us 25 minus 5 root 5 plus 5 root 5 minus 25, which actually leaves us with 0. Okay, so if you got all those right, well done. You are well on your way to understanding surds really well. So well done. Thank you so much for using Cubit Education, and I'll see you next time.